When you're in a toxic relationship, you lose yourself.
This is Jessica. She's a marketing director by day, but when she's not at work, you'll find her in the ring.
At that time, I trained 7 days a week, 2-3 times a day.
In this episode, Jess talks about how boxing changed her personal, professional, and love life.
I don't really see the opponent, I see myself.
While explaining all the lessons she's learned from her opponents and her exes.
Before being a fighter, I'm a lover. Sometimes you have to lose to learn.
We talk about attachment theory, dating anxiety, and why you might be stuck in toxic relationships because, let's be honest, who hasn't had one?
I'm playing the games. Are you still waiting for the message?
Yeah.
I'm here. You have to come back to me.
Jess also shares 3 key things that help her spot someone toxic and how you can do so too.
When you don't know how to love yourself, you can't find a true lover.
Welcome back to the talking stage. Get your gloves ready. What have you learned in your time of being single?
Wow, that's a tough question. Let me think.
Welcome back to the talking stage, and Jess, thank you for being here.
Hi.
So Jess, recently, I remember it's your birthday, so
Yes.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I want to ask, this year, how did you spend it?
So I actually been celebrating for almost 3 weeks now.
Okay.
And so I have a lot of birthday dinners. My friend brought me to upstate. There's like a goat farm. I was like just holding the baby goats. It was nice. And I also have another birthday dinner on the weekend, another rave on Saturday. It's great.
Okay,
It's
wow.
great.
You have a lot of activities lined up for your birthday.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the goat farm?
My friend actually came up with it. Like, she's like, oh, like, I want to give you some love and then, like, you know, feel the pure love from goats. Like, you know, don't worry about the man. Like, it's not real love. It's not real love.
Yeah, no man, we only like the goats.
Yeah.
Do you like animals?
I do love animals.
Okay.
I love all kinds. It's just the fact that in New York, all the apartments are so small. And even though I love dogs, and it's just so hard to have a pet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Understandably. Did you have a pet or anything back home?
Not at this point. I used to have, because I've been here for almost 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and I used to have a Frenchie like almost 3 years ago, but my ex brought him back to Korea with him. So so I broke up with my ex plus my son.
Plus the dog. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's tough.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to see the dog again, you'd have to go to Korea, right?
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay. That is too far away.
That's too far. That's too far.
Did you ever? I know like some people when they have like a pet together, but then they break up, they do like, parent dog custody.
Yeah.
Did you ever did he FaceTime you in to see the dog ever, or?
No, he sent me some pictures, but the thing is, he doesn't live with a dog either. So his dad has this resort, and they have like a center, like a pet center, and he kind of just left the dog there. So I kind of very regret that I didn't fight for the ownership of the dog. It just went by the at first when we had this dog, he said he's the owner. We already decided that, so like we will have no issue afterwards. And then after he went back, I thought he would take good care of the dog, but he didn't. But it's okay. Just, it's a past. It's a past.
Gotcha. So we'll forget about that.
Yeah.
That part. You said you've been celebrating your birthday for like 3 weeks. Is this like an annual tradition? Like, do you usually do like a lot of different celebrations for your birthday?
I usually, because my friends are all from like different friend groups, and some people they went back to China for New Year Eve, for Chinese New Year, and some people they're traveling. It's just everyone's time is different, and hosting a big party, you kind of have to like, hey, this is my friend, and you have to make sure the vibe is great. You don't want things to get awkward, so like, I kind of just I want to celebrate with a small group, so I really get to talk to everyone.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because then, instead of introducing everyone to everyone, you can kind of have your segmented groups. That way you know what the vibe is. You kind of know how the group chemistry is. But I feel like the only time where you really have to do that is when you get married, like at a wedding or at a funeral, right?
But wait, funeral? You mean my funeral? Like
Or
my
like-
own funeral? So
yeah.
I don't have to do the talking.
Yeah. You don't have to do the talking. So I guess one's easier than the other, right? We are fresh into 2025.
Yeah.
So I was looking at your Instagram, and on December 31st, you had like an end of the year 2024 recap.
Right.
And one of the quotes that you said on your recap was, I hit rock bottom in my career, relationships, passions. The only thing that kept me going was the faith that losing things just means that better things are on the horizon. Could you tell me more about what that rock bottom was and how have things changed since then?
Yeah, so around last May, have you ever heard of this thing that losing the job and losing your relationship is like a package? Like, by the time you get laid off, you usually like get out of one relationship. And it also happened to me. So around like last late April, one day my boss called me in. He said he was closing up my position at the time, but he loved working with me, so he offered me another position. He gave me a weekend to think about it, and I just realized that I spent 3 years in the company that didn't really value me enough. And even though I could have played safe to just stay and maybe look for a job at the same time, but if you stay at the place that people there, they just don't value you, it actually drains out your energy, and it takes a lot of good energy for you to look for a new job. And I don't want to spend like 8-10 hours a day at some place I don't feel welcome, so I decided to walk away. And 2 weeks after, my boyfriend at the time, actually not really a boyfriend, when I look back now, it feels a lot more like a situationship for like a 4 month. And then he told me that he couldn't engage his emotion with me, even though like I was a very supportive person, very supportive partner, and he would love to keep dating me, but he just couldn't engage that much. I'm like, no, I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
So I just let him go. And it was a huge step for me because I actually never broken up with anyone in my life. And I'm a fixer, and whatever happened, it doesn't matter how terrible the relationship became, I always try to fix, or I always try to back to like, please don't go. And then because of like all the past relationship has been like that, and just last year, for some reason, maybe because I started boxing for like a while, I slowly learned how to love myself, and I decided to let both of them, the company and the boyfriend at the time, go, because I want to I see my value, and I feel sorry if you don't.
No, absolutely. I feel like, especially because you were at that company for 3 years and you felt like you worked really hard, you were grinding, but then if they weren't appreciative of the efforts and they weren't recognizing that you were working hard and you were putting in the work, then probably better off without them. And I guess the same goes for your relationship at the time, right? If he wasn't recognizing your efforts, or he wasn't valuing you, then you're better off by yourself.
Exactly.
But I imagine that is a very tough place to start with, right? Because you're getting let go, and then you're also letting go of like a relationship, so then you feel like you're really starting from zero.
Yeah, and so the rock bottom was that, and I think when you are going through a tough time like this, the routine really matters a lot, because when people get laid off, a lot of them, they just kind of sleep till afternoon, where they don't really have a strict schedule anymore. But I am very glad that I still stick to my workout schedule. I still woke up 5 in the morning every day, because my first training was 6 a.m. And I'm always a golden retriever. When I get to the gym, I'm always a smile, always laughing. So when I shut down, it's very noticeable. And the coaches started checking in on me, this and that. And that was the time that my coach now, he talked to me and asked me if I want to train with him. And the thing is, at that time, I already knew him for 2 years, and I've been trying to work with him, but he has a crazy busy schedule. And the thing is, taking a client is very different from taking on a fighter, because taking a client, you get paid every single class, and they probably train maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, or whatever. But training a fighter means you have to put hours every single day. You have to take care of your fighters mentally and physically, and for years, for them to do the first fight. And he has a crazy busy schedule. He doesn't have to do this, but he saw how dedicated I've been in boxing. So at that time, I trained 7 days a week, 2-3 times a day, and I always got there 30 minutes before the class, stay there an hour after the class. He saw the dedication, so I proved myself to him, and he asked me if I want to train with him, and that's how we started. That was last May 8th. Gotcha. I still remember the date.
Okay, so from then on, obviously, now that you had a coach take you under his wing and training you, then I feel like your life really changed a lot, because now you had a designated person to kind of guide you through that the boxing world, right?
Exactly. And like I was still very lost because I got the offer in July. So there was still like a 2 months, 3 months gap. And like job hunting itself is it's exhausting. Not only exhausting, you don't see the future.
Yeah.
It's so scary. You don't know when you will get the job. And some of your friends, they got laid off a year before you. They still couldn't find a job. So I was like, oh shit. But the workout schedule, you still get there 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. You be there 2-3 hours. And boxing and working out yourself, it just gives you a lot of like good energy. You just somehow believe that you can do this. Especially when by the time I finish my workout, people just started getting up.
Yeah.
So you feel like you already win the morning. It's no way you can't find a job. And I also met my current boss at the boxing gym.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Didn't know you guys box together.
We don't box together, but his trainer is friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And then that's how we met each other.
Okay, and then, hey, that's a connection that got you a job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'd love to see it. Also, I know you guys might not be able to see it on camera, but Jess is very ripped and she is hella strong, so...
I'm okay, but thank you.
Speaking of boxing, so I play a lot of tennis, and then I started playing tennis when I was really young because both my parents played and they like put me in as a kid. I didn't really have a choice because they just kind of, started me, but you kind of chose boxing as an adult. So one, how did you stumble upon boxing, and then why did you choose it as an adult over other sports?
So I actually started boxing because of my ex. He loved boxing and I love him. So
Fair.
Before being a fighter, I'm a lover, and so I started watching a lot of fights with him. I started going to classes. I hated it. I didn't know what I was doing, and the fights were so boring. But I just wanted to speak his own language. I wanted to he was so excited sharing all the information, talking about fighters. So I just want to learn whatever he liked. And then after he left, so we went to the same gym together when he was in New York. And after he left, he went back to his own country. And staying at the gym just feels a lot like when he was still here with me. That's how that felt. It sounds a little bit pathetic, but but I was holding on to it. So I was there 6 in the morning, 12 at noon, 6 p.m. I'm there all the time, nonstop training. Eventually helped me to move on from that chapter. And now this is my biggest hobby, and it just fills me up early in the morning. I don't even drink coffee. I don't need anything. As long as I have my workout in, I'm like super energetic.
And you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
I feel like I really like what you said too, because even though you found boxing because of your ex, you kind of transformed that chapter into something that's your own, and it's now your own individual story, right? It's not, oh, this is something that my ex introduced me to. This is something that I'm creating for myself as a result of that.
Yeah.
So
a lot of my friends, they actually told me to like change the story. They're like, stop bringing up your ex, just say like you got inspired by some like female fighters. But I think the story itself, it just shows a lot of my personality, and I don't think it is something that's embarrassing. I think it just shows that I am a lover and I'm capable of doing things for people I love.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time in the gym.
Yeah.
And then I think boxing, when I think of boxing, I think of it as a very male-dominated sport.
It is.
So I feel like you're probably around a lot of guys at the gym.
Yeah.
Have you ever dated another boxer, or like, are you into boxers, or do you have a type?
I don't really have a type, but there's a saying, you don't eat where you shit.
That's true.
I don't want to going and feeling awkward because there's someone there I dated before. So I never dated anyone from my gym. And boxers, as you said, it's a very male dominating sport. So you don't really see a lot of female fighters. Not even mention I think I still look very like a woman. I don't look too scary. I don't look very boyish. So it is a lot of benefits to me. Like a lot of trainer, world-class trainer, a lot of fighters, they follow me, they talk to me just because I'm very different, and I got to learn a lot of different techniques, got to talk to people that's way high up in this sport, and yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Okay, very cool. So I totally agree with that. Like, don't eat where you should, because if things go bad, it can get really messy really quick, right?
Yeah.
I remember like when I first moved to New York, I went to a lot of tennis socials to like, you know, one, to make friends, but two, on the off chance I could meet someone, I could be like, oh yeah, we both play tennis. It's like a nice thing we have in common. But then I noticed that there would be other people that would date at these like tennis groups, and then if they went on a few dates and it didn't go well, then they'd have to see each other next time, and it was just like this awkward, like, went for drinks 3 times and now we don't speak anymore. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should just like chill out. So I also never dated anyone that played tennis because, you know, I didn't want that delineation to be crossed. So
Right. I don't date people that's like at my gym, but and I also haven't dated any boxers yet. But because I box, so when guys they go on a dates with me, or when any guys that's interested in me and they say, "Oh, you box," I also been to Rumble a few times.
that's not boxing.
That kind of like I just yeah, I just have an ick with it. I just get.
That's like me when someone says that, like, oh, you play tennis? I love pickleball. And I think that's not the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not judging, but it just.
Yeah, so that rumble to boxing is like pickleball to tennis.
Yeah, I would still be very nice and say, oh, like, that's more for fitness.
Yeah.
But like, it just deep in my mind, I would know that, I don't think this one will work.
They're not serious about it.
Yeah, they're not serious about it. Yeah.
Outside of boxing, what is the most attractive sport a guy can play?
Basketball.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I'm so bad at basketball. So I'm like, wow, that's very charming when guys are very good at basketball.
Okay, so it's like because it's something that you're not like naturally good at,
Yeah.
you find it more attractive because they're naturally good at it.
Yeah, so like in boxing, like I only find guys attractive if you're like way better than me. If you're like just started it, it's just, I still want to find someone that's better than me, or at least someone that's into this sports. So like my past situationship, I remember he said boxing is too manly, and he wanted me to give up boxing.
Okay.
And I'm always like I mentioned, like all my relationships, I'm like a fixer. I'm like begging people not to leave me. So I couldn't believe that at the moment I actually thought about it. I was like, oh, should I give up boxing for this person? And then so like that's exactly what I mentioned. Like you can lose people, but you can't lose yourself. You should stick to whatever you love, whatever you believe. And then if people they can accept it, it's fine. And then our way will just pass, and I will find someone that have the same like facing me too. And he thought it was very manly. He didn't look like sexy when I boxed, but I'm like, no, I think I look hot as fuck. So like, I'm sorry you can't see that.
Yeah, that's really interesting that he would make you kind of give up a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't like it. But
because like boxing is literally my life, like huge 3 parts. One is like families and friends, my career, and boxing. Like I start my daily life with boxing. That's how important it is to me. And you want me to give up that? It just it's not right. Yeah, it's not right.
I guess when you said that you tend to be a fixer and you tend to like in a relationship, if things don't seem to go well, you always try to go out of your way to fix it.
Yeah.
When do you think that started, or how far back do you remember doing that?
I think since my very first relationship, and I think like I believe like have you ever read the book called Attachment?
Oh, I actually have attached in that drawer over there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So you read that already?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the anxious type.
Okay.
So like anxious type people, most of them are like people pleaser. They try to like always, make sure they're scared once another person pulled away. They're scared when they don't get the love, they don't feel the love. So like I think that kind of makes sense to me. Like every time when another person pull away, when another person says, oh, like it won't work, I will be like, whatever won't work, I will fix.
Yeah.
I will change. And like this is actually so bad, and I realized that this is an issue. Like a lot of like failed relationship, my failed past relationship, of course you can blame on another person. Of course not all of them were great, but it was more because of me, because I didn't really set the boundaries. Like, a lot of girls, they say, I've been through all this toxic relationship, violent relationship, and they talk about all this story, they've been through all this for years. But the attraction is, why would you let that happen?
Yeah.
You can just literally let this happen once and then you cut it off, and there's no other stories afterwards. But I didn't set the boundary, and then like I always try to compromise. And the thing is, doesn't matter how good this person is, if you don't stand on your own ground, people will slowly, the balance, the dynamic would change. And doesn't matter how healthy this person and how healthy this relationship is, it will slowly change to something toxic. So this is what I've been learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess for anyone that hasn't heard about attached kind of talks about how there's like 3 big categories for attachment styles. There's anxiously attached, securely attached, and avoidantly attached.
Yeah.
But then like I was
about to ask you.
I used to be anxious. Like I was anxious for like a good part of my life, like 10 years or so, like from like teenagers to like adulthood. But then I was actually able to kind of switch it from anxious to more secure. And I think that obviously it took time and it took a lot of like work and self-reflection, but I think that I could see myself, I guess, change over. But it's a very common trope in that book that when you're anxiously attached, you go after a lot of avoidantly attached people.
Yes, so toxic.
Because I know that for me personally, like before I met my girlfriend, like a lot of the girls that I would see were also avoidantly attached, and obviously that led to a lot of like anxiety, that led to a lot of overthinking, it led to a lot of like bad decision making, and it was just like, I felt that, like you said, it was very toxic. Do you think that you are also attracted to avoidantly attached guys?
I think yes, or honestly, I think I'm attached to like toxic relationship. It sounds very weird, but my first relationship was not healthy. So like, the first relationship actually affects like how you approach to people and how you think what love is so much. And from my first relationship, I kind of like link the toxicity pain to love. So when I was in the healthy relationship, I will find drama, I will find like troubles, and I didn't even realize that until like 3-4 years ago. So I've been single for almost 3 years besides the last like situationship. I don't think that counts. But so I technically be single for 3 years, and you can only like learn yourself when you're single, or you just kind of like move on, use another person to move on for another person that you never realize that's actually your own problem. Yeah, so I do realize that I wouldn't say attached to avoidant type, but I attached to something I don't feel like comfortable.
Yeah.
And then I feel the love. It's weird.
I think I totally resonate with that. I feel like I was in a similar situation too, because I feel like we attribute kind of like that up and down, that roller coaster to attraction, when it's just kind of, it's anxiety in a different package, right? Like we get very tied to that like hot cold, up down, like, are they gonna text me, are they not? Like, oh my god, I see their name on the top of my, like they texted me, things are good again. And I think that is actually just anxiety that's masked as like attraction, because we're so used to kind of being in that cycle, right?
We thought that was love.
Yeah.
Have you waited for like a task for hours and then just like kept you awake and then just couldn't do anything?
Oh, 100%. Or like, I remember sometimes I would just be like going about my day, driving wherever, and then I'm just thinking about like, when is this person gonna text me back? I see their name pop up, I was like, oh thank god, and, my Thursday is saved. But then I was like, why am I putting so much weight into this situation, right? Did
you feel like you were like drowning when you were waiting for the messages or the calls?
I think yes. Like when I think back about my past self, when I reflect on it, I think that I was more attracted to them, and I was more drawn to them the less they were drawn to me. Or it's like, the more they played hard to get, the more I would chase, or I would be attracted to. And I think that there's like a psychology behind that, right? Like you want something that you can't have.
Right.
And then when someone's pulling away or someone's like giving you the signs, I wasn't listening. I was just like, that made me chase even harder. So you
would be like, stop playing the games. Are you still waiting for the message?
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like, because you said that you were also on the anxious side, do you think that you do some of these behaviors as well?
Since I'm aware of that now, so I try to like calm myself down. Like when I'm waiting for the message, I will like tell myself. I used to be like, did something happen? Like, if I were a boyfriend, I would be like, is he like dating someone else? Is he seeing someone else? Or like, did he have a car accident?
Yeah.
But he was just working.
Did he die?
Yeah, and then like now I just try to like be more reasonable. Like, oh, he's just busy and like it's normal. Or I would just simply think like, if he texts, he texts, and like if I used to tell people, oh, you make me anxious, you should text me back more. But now I just kind of like let things go, and then like I want this person to do whatever he wants, and then if we match the energy, then we match. If you're someone only text once a day, we don't match, and I don't even want to tell you what to do. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that that's a much more empowered position to be in too, because, you know, before you were saying, I feel anxious when you don't text me, please text me more. But now you're just like, do whatever you want, and I'm still going to live my life, right? And then I'm going to live my life whether you're doing this or not. And I think that that's way more powerful, because you're not putting your worth or your satisfaction or your like happiness on this other person's actions.
Exactly. When did you aware that you were like anxious type? I know you're secure now, but when did you?
Honestly, I think that when I read Attached, that like really gave me a wake-up call, because I think that I remember I was seeing this girl and I thought things were going really well, and then things just like came crashing down really badly, and then I was like, it was just basically like things were going really, really well until it wasn't. And then I remember I was just, you know, me being anxious, and I was overthinking it really hard, that I wanted some answers, and I was just looking for somewhere where I could get some clarity. And I heard about Attached, so I Amazon primed the book and I read it, and literally like, you know, 25 pages in, I was already hooked, and I was like, oh wait, this is describing my situation exactly. I like read the whole thing, and then it gave me a lot of light on something that seemed so obvious now that someone explained it. But then from there, I could recognize patterns of what I was doing, but also kind of more importantly, it showed me patterns of who I was going after that made me kind of fall into the cycle of, you know, going after avoidant people. How about you? Now that you have become aware, you've kind of shifted your mindset, and you're kind of like living your life in a more, you know, a way that's geared towards you versus other people. How did you kind of make that transition?
So I am still like transitioning. You know, I'm still single, so like there's a reason why I'm still single. And I believe that when you don't know how to love yourself, you can't find a true lover. And like I used to be, and I'm still, I don't feel like I'm fully healed from like all my past relationships. So like when you're broken, you find broken people, and you will try to fix them to see your own value from it. And so now I just focus more on spending time with myself, boxing and career. And I believe that the life is like a blank stuff, and then you have like all the pillars, and when you rely too much on one pillar, it's gonna fall. Once it falls, it's just all crash. And I used to only lean on like the relationships, so like now I'm trying to build out all the pillars: my career, boxing, my friendship, like everything else. And then I want to get to the point that I'm very happy with myself, and whatever add to it is great, but if you have to leave, like I will show you the door. I want to get to that point, and before I get to that point, I don't want to be in the relationship. So that kind of answer why am I still single, because I'm still trying to learn. And so I broke up with my ex like almost 3 years ago, and I think breaking up itself is, of course, heartbroken is one of the worst feelings in the world, but the hardest part is not like, you know, you have to start a new norm, like you have to be on your own, and then like everything is different. Besides that is that when you're in a toxic relationship, you lose yourself. Like I mentioned, I used to compromise on everything. I used to like, you know, I have this boundary, I draw the line, but no, you step on, all right, I draw a line, I draw another one. And then if you keep doing that, when you break up, you don't even know who you are, because you do things, you leaving other people's idea of like this person, or like my ex, he loved this like super skinny girl, he loved this girl that very quiet, very this and that, and I tried to be that person even though I wasn't. And then so after he left, I didn't even know if I like this food. I didn't even know if I like this person. It just is crazy. So like, I think piecing yourself back up is the hardest part after a breakup, especially after the unhealthy relationship. And I'm very scared of getting into another unhealthy relationship. I'd rather miss 100 good guys than getting into another bad relationship.
Absolutely. I think that what you said is very true too. I feel like it's a very common characteristic of anxiously attached people to kind of want to mold themselves to whatever the other person wants, right? Like if, you know, like you said, your ex was just like, oh, I want a girl that's like really skinny or like really quiet, and then you're gonna be like, oh, like time to take notes, right? And
yeah,
you know, I remember like myself doing that too. And if a girl was just like, oh, I really like guys that are like play piano or do music, then I was like, oh, time to make music my whole personality, right?
Guitar.
Like
I see a guitar.
I play a little bit, but like, you know, but like back in the day, right? So I definitely resonate with that, where you feel like you're trying to like morph yourself into this version of what they would like, but at the end of the day, by being who you are and being the most authentic, genuine version of yourself, that's when you're gonna find someone that accepts you and really cherishes you for who you are too.
Exactly.
So, you know, even if you're boxing and they're just like, oh, like that last guy was just like, oh, that's like too manly of a sport, then not the match, and you'll find someone that accepts that and thinks that's really cool.
Yeah, and also like boxing is not really just a hobby for me. It's just I almost learned the life through boxing, and it's also my therapy. So of course, boxing is very hard, this and that, but like, when you step into the ring, it's also another scenario. It's not only on the backs, it's just only you and the opponent. Like, you can have all the friends and family, they cheer for you. They say, hey, go Jessica. You have all the supports, and the trainer tell you to like do like a jab cross, jab hook, whatever, but you're still the only person in it to make the decision to to take all the hit. And then it's a lot like life, you know, you can have like all the support you can have your mentor, but you're still the one making the decision and taking the consequences. And funny enough, every time when I'm going through something and I go boxing, whatever my trainer say, it just kind of resonates, like whatever I was going through. And so I remember I was going through a situation, and that situation was very tough. I can't really go to the details, but like, it's just, I put myself in the position that everyone hates me. And the thing is, when you're not at that position, like, it's very easy to blame people. It's very easy to judge when you're not at the position. Just like the hardest commentators are those who never box. You know, you can watch a fight and say like, you should keep your guards up, you should get out of the corner, you should do this, do that. Why like only 2 rounds and you already look so exhausted? You don't even have that compassion. But like, if you ever fought, you know that they're trying their best. Whatever they're doing, whatever it looks silly or whatever it looks like terrible, that's the best they could do. Like, because they couldn't feel their legs, because they're injured, because they're dizzy. And after that, I realized that I would try not to put myself in that position. And like, every time I box, I see the opponent. I don't really see the opponent. I see myself. I see myself when the person that's making the bad decision, or that little girl like didn't know how to set the boundaries, or just all the times, all the weakness inside me, and I try to like, all the punches I throw is for that little girl inside me.
No, I really like that, because it's like, it's not just you're fighting in the ring, it represents something a lot more, right? Like, you're fighting for your past self, or you're fighting for, you know, kind of what you stand for now.
Yeah. And I remember I was going through that situation, and I was sparring another day, and it's just when I'm exhausted, or when I feel like, oh, I didn't do great in this round, I would like, that's it, my corner is here, I would go to another corner to take a deep breath, and I just hated myself. I should have done better, and I couldn't face my trainer. And then he would call me there after the sparring. He would be like, "Hey Jess, I know that you were exhausted. I knew you were like disappointed in yourself, but like whenever you were hurt, came right back to the corner. I'm here. You have to come back to me." And I'm like, wow, it resonates a lot, because when I'm going through something, I kind of just hide myself from the world. I'm like, no, I don't want to connect to anyone. I don't want to show anyone my pain. But what you should do is you should go to your closest friend, your family, and then they will help you. They will help you to like navigate the situation. Yeah.
I think like people, especially kind of growing up Asian, just like we're kind of taught to, don't show weakness, don't show like that you're struggling. You want to save face, you want to look like you're happy, you want to look like you're good. But then, like you said too, if people are in your corner, they're there to help you, and they're there to support you when you need it, not just, you don't have to be this perfect person or like this person that never needs help anytime. But one thing that I really like about sports is I feel like sports teach a lot of life lessons.
Yeah.
I feel like, I've been playing tennis for a long time, and I feel like I have learned a lot just being on the court, being part of the community. Is there a lesson that you've learned from boxing that really sticks out to you?
My favorite life lesson, I would say, you learn from the lessons, but you don't stuck in like regretting it, because a lot of the time people, that's like whatever is bad breakup or like whatever conflicts you have or any bad decisions you make in your life, and we sometimes just stuck in the emotion for a very long time, and we just can't move on. And in boxing, especially when you're in the fight, you might slip on the wrong side, you did something like it's not like perfect angle and you could have done better. And I used to just like stuck in there. I'm like, oh, I should have done this. But the thing is, when you're stuck in there, the next punch is coming. And you might lose your chance of like punching it back. So my trainer now, when we train, he just keep punching me. He just keeps slapping me. So like, I don't have time to regret. And like, you can learn. You know that, okay, next time I'm not gonna sleep on this side. Next time I'm not gonna look like, only on the foot. I should look like on the chest. You learn, but you don't stuck in there. You move on. You always just learn and move on. So I would say that's like the best lesson I learned from boxing.
I like that. Learn to move on. It's like whatever happens, even if you mess up, you keep on, you got to move forward, and the next punch is coming. So you better get ready no matter what.
Just like life. So what did you learn the best from tennis?
Tennis. Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, one of because you mentioned that, one of the lessons that I really took away kind of is the same thing, where it's like in terms of the scoring, you win games, then sets, then the match. But then we get so down on ourselves about losing a point where we make like a stupid mistake, or we like hit into the net, we hit it long, we hit it wide, but then we can really beat up ourselves by missing a ball. But then the next point is coming anyways, so you have to reset and you just have to clean the slate. And even if you messed up a really easy ball or really easy shot, just play the next point just like it's your last point. So like you said, so you kind of just move forward, and no matter what happens, you kind of just move past it and you take the next one head on.
Exactly. And sometimes you have to lose to learn.
Exactly.
Just like I think back in the time when I was only doing the group classes, the coaches was like, oh, you have to slip, you have to dodge. And I was like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And of course I know, okay, I have to like dodge a punches, this and that. But you don't realize when you like, not until you really get hit 100 times, and you know that, oh, I have to roll. Yeah.
I guess on the subject of life lessons, you mentioned that you have been single for 3 years now.
Almost 3 years.
Since your last relationship. Since you have been single, and I guess there's more time to self-reflect, what have you learned in your time of being single?
Well, that's a tough question. Let me think. What have I learned? I think I used to build whatever my schedule and what I like based on the partner. And just like boxing, even though like it's a huge gain for me now, but back in the days, even though there are things I didn't like, just like the guy said he loved reading, and I'm just not a big reader. Same. I love listening to podcasts. So yeah, podcast. Isn't it nice? Yeah. But I think I'm still trying to like love myself and then enjoy the time just being by myself. Because when I just got off the relationship, I feel every day like crazy. I made sure every day, besides the 6 hours of sleep, I'm outside with someone, with my friends, with whatever days. I don't even want to talk to them, but I'm just trying to fill my time. And now, like, I finally got to the point that even though I don't have any plans, I enjoy just watching TV or just like sometimes journaling or just going for a walk for myself. I'm still trying though. I'm still trying to get to the point that I enjoy just by myself.
Absolutely. I think that what you said too about like filling your time and having like a fulfilling life is very important too, because I think it's so easy to kind of put a lot of pressure on yourself to get a relationship, for example, or people are like, oh, I want a boyfriend, I want a girlfriend so bad, and I'm gonna like do whatever it takes to get there. I'm gonna go on like 3 dates a night, and then, you know, but when people are doing that, it kind of gives off, you know, you're showing that you're desperate in a way, right? But then when you can, like you said, when you can enjoy your time by yourself, you fill your time with hobbies, with friends, and you have a very fulfilling life, and you don't need to like go on 3 dates a night. I feel like that makes you more attractive too, because then people are like, oh, she has like a very full, complete life. She has a good community of friends and family. She has hobbies. She has interests. That makes anyone just like a better candidate in general too.
And like, I think going on a date or like having, a lot of people do this at rebound relationship. I just don't think that kind of like take away your own chances to like learn yourself. Because before my ex, I was actually being like not dating almost nonstop. I only had like 2 months or like no more than 6 months gap. So I almost never really grieve any of my relationship. I'm just like, oh, I'm sad. I didn't know what to do. Let me jump into another relationship. So like, I didn't have to deal with this on my own. But you really have to get to the point that I am really lonely, and why I've been falling in love with like guys that bring me trauma, and like maybe it's because of me. You know, they say like all the relationship actually reflects yourself. When like you always find like a very unhealthy one, when you always find people toxic or whatever, sometimes it's because you're toxic. And it's not in a bad way. It's good that you have the awareness is always the first step. Just like you. Look at you, you're in a healthy relationship.
I try my best. I mean, I think that's another good point you brought up, where it's like when there's a guy that complains like, oh, all my ex-girlfriends are psycho, it's like the common denominator is you, so you're probably the one that's psycho. Not like the chance of 5 girls all being completely insane is not that likely, so it's probably the guy's fault. So
because I imagine like I remember 5-6 years ago when I first dated my ex, and he was also an anxious type. And I remember I forgot to like texted him back. I fell asleep or something for like 4 hours only. And then he called my friend because he didn't know where I live at the moment. He called my friend, and then he brought my friend to my place, knocked on my door because he thought I was gone or something happened to me.
It's like you died, you're cheating, you're like, or like whatever. They jump to the worst conclusions, right?
Yeah, and I opened the door, crazy enough. Me at the moment, I was like, wow, you love me so much. But it actually is a very crazy thing, you know. So like now when I look back, I realize that, wow, I have a problem. Like if I don't fix my own problem, I will always fall into like the toxic relationship. If let's say if I fall in love with a security guy, and if it's gone for 4 hours because he's busy working, and I knock on his door, I might scare him away, you know. So like I think being single is actually a step forward to find a healthy relationship.
100%.
Wow, I made that up. Oh, wow.
There you go, on the spot.
I didn't even plan for that.
I think that's a really good point as well, because I think that prior to, you know, me dating my girlfriend, I felt like I was bouncing from relationship to relationship, like you said, I kind of went one after the other with not much room in between. But then, you know, my last relationship ended during COVID, like 2020. And then I was single for almost 4 years, like 3.5 years. But then during...
You were forced to be single, like COVID.
Yeah. The first year was, you know, not, you know, that was because of the circumstance. But then after that, once stuff started opening up back up and then I started dating again, I learned so much from being single and like from meeting all these different people, kind of like you said too. And then with each person, I feel like I learned a little bit more about myself, so that once I kind of got to the point where I was ready, quote unquote ready, and I met my girlfriend, I was like, okay, I like have this experience and all these lessons that I have learned from the past that I wouldn't have gotten if I wasn't single and if I didn't meet these people. So I think that's, you know, that's great for you too.
What was the biggest takeaway when you were like single?
I think the biggest takeaway was to...
It is hard, right?
It's very hard. I think this is very hard. I think the biggest takeaway for me was to, I guess, own my standard. Because I think that in the beginning, I would just try to be as flexible as I could be. Because I'm like, oh, I think I'm like a pretty chill guy. I'm like, I can be a pretty like agreeable person. Like I have a lot of hobbies. So whatever the girl likes, I can do more, right? Like, oh, she's more active. I'll just like push the tennis or like running. Or it's like, oh, she's more creative than like, you know, photography or like music or something. I was like, you know, I could like kind of chameleon my way there. But then the more I did that, the more I felt like I was not being honest to myself. And I think that like, even I remember when I would meet people, I would say that, oh, I work in consulting. And then people are like, okay, cool. It's like, you know, regular old job, like every other guy in New York or something. But then I actually didn't tell people I did like content creation or videography or photography. And then because I thought that would scare them away. And I thought that would kind of deter them, because they'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird or that's kind of niche. But then
Really?
But then yeah, as I like after some introspection, I was just like, by not telling people I do this, I'm like hiding a huge part of myself, right? Like this is, you know, I guess a side business, and then this is something that I do very passionately. But then I wasn't telling them because I was fearful of being judged. So then, you know, once I kind of owned my standard and I was just like, look, this is what you're getting, like you take it or leave it. And I think that after that, I came to that acceptance. I went on a lot better dates, and the people that I started, you know, seeing, I could be a lot more like vulnerable and closer to them, just because I was really owning my standard and being my true self.
I think I remember there's a book called The Courage to Be Disliked or something. I think like for the anxious type, we are scared of being disliked. So like we would try to fix everything. I still sometimes do this when I ask a friend to go out. Maybe, hey, like let's go out like 6 p.m. to this restaurant. 30 minutes after, if my friend's still like not testing back, I will be like, or if you're busy, it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like always trying to, I'm scared to like, you know, really give my opinion away.
Yeah. But I think that when you can once you kind of develop the sense that I'm just going to give my opinion, whether they like it or not, I just need to like say my truth and just get it out there, then that puts you in a much more powerful position, because you're like, you know, I'm just going to say whatever I want, right? So I guess going forward, you're single, you are ready to mingle, you know. What kind of guy do you want to date next? Or like, what kind of partner do you see yourself with?
I want to date someone who has a workout routine. It doesn't have to be boxing, but having a workout routine means that they do care about their body and their mental health. Because I don't know if you noticed that, but working out 3-4 times a week, that kind of people, they're like healthy.
Yeah.
Mentally and physically. People who work out 6 times a week, 7 days a week, besides they're training for something, they're usually fixing their like inside, whatever inside. But at least they're aware of that. And there are people, they just kind of give up. They're not going to the gym, they don't go out, they don't eat well. Sometimes it actually reflects their mental health. So I want someone who cares about their body and their mind. That's the first thing. Secondly, they're passionate about their work, like just what I mentioned, and they have a hobby. Because I learn myself and life so much through boxing, and I believe that whatever hobby you have, you can learn a lot through that. So I don't want someone when I ask like, what is your hobby? And I say, I love I love like shopping, I love like going for a walk. I need something that you need the dedicated hours, and doesn't matter you're having a good days or bad days, you spend time on it. That's the only way you will learn things. And on top of all this, I think the most important thing is like kindness, because at the end of the day, I think everyone can be great people on the good times, but like at the bad times, that's really show how like what kind of person you are. So like the kindness is very, very important to me.
No, 100% agree. You are a marketing director at a luxury real estate firm.
Yes.
And obviously you're very well versed on social media. You create content for yourself. What is the best and what is the worst dating advice you've seen?
The best, I would say the worst. It's actually the same. Like people say just go find a new one so you can forget the old one. That's definitely the worst. So that we just like talk about it. Like it's just the best advice is to spend time with yourself and like build a better version of yourself. Like never try to like chase someone. Always try to build yourself, and then you will attract the right one. I believe I can find someone that can work with me. And even though I can't find that person, I'm happy just being on my own. Yeah.
Okay. That being said, if you are interested in Jessica and want to slide into her DMs, her handle will be listed below.
Yeah.
So listed. But Jessica, thank you so much for coming to the talking stage.
Yay.
All right. Episode 2, like and subscribe.